All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are tackling, well, probably the biggest question there is. But we're not going to look at it through the lens of faith or philosophy. No, we're coming at this from the lens of pure science.
For literally centuries, this question was left to religion. But now, scientists are actually stepping right up to that edge, armed with data, trying to figure out what, if anything, comes after that final breath.
Okay, let's dive right in. How on earth does science even begin to tackle something like this? Well, think of it like a journey. We're exploring this wild frontier where our best instruments and equations are meeting this ancient, profound mystery head-on. We're going to be digging into data from all over the place. Hospital wards, the strange world of quantum fields, even deep neural scans. All to get a better handle on what science can tell us, and just as importantly, what it can't tell us about an afterlife. So, what are these clues that have scientists so fired up? It really boils down to two main areas. These incredibly powerful personal stories called near-death experiences, and then these meticulously documented claims of, get this, reincarnation.
This quote from a nurse really captures it. These experiences, which scientists call NDEs, are reported all over the world, from every culture you can imagine. And they're reported by people who were revived from being clinically dead. The details they describe are just stunningly vivid.
Let's zoom in on probably the most famous case out there. Pam Reynolds. Back in 1991, she had this radical brain surgery that literally required doctors to put her into a state of clinical death. And here's the kicker, the absolute core of the puzzle. After she was revived, Pam described the specific surgical tools they used. She even recalled bits of conversation from the operating room, and all of it was later verified. So the question is, how was that possible if her brain was completely offline?
And listen, the Pam Reynolds case isn't some one-off thing. That number you're seeing, over 2,500, that's how many of these cases have been investigated, mainly by researchers at the University of Virginia. And we're not talking about some vague, fuzzy feelings here. These are thousands of incredibly detailed accounts from kids who claim to remember past lives.
Right, it's not just, I feel like I was a queen. No, cases like the James Leininger story involve mind-blowing specifics. He was just a toddler, but he recalled being a World War II pilot, even naming the aircraft carrier and the model of his plane, details that were later checked against historical records, and they matched.
Okay, so we've got these really compelling clues on the table, right? How does science even begin to make sense of them? Well, the theories pretty much fall into two major camps.
And it's a real head-to-head conflict. On one hand, you have the idea that these experiences are just the brain's final, beautiful story, a kind of hallucination as it shuts down. But on the other hand, the experiences might suggest that our awareness, our consciousness, can actually exist outside the physical brain. It's a huge divide.
But here's a question you're probably asking. If NDEs are just brain activity, why do they feel so incredibly real, so profound and spiritual? It's a great question, and neurologists actually have a pretty compelling answer for it.
It comes down to this. Your brain is a master storyteller. It's designed to make your experiences feel real. Think about a vivid dream. So when the brain is under extreme stress, like when it's deprived of oxygen or flooded with hormones, it can create these profound illusions that for the person having them are absolutely 100% real. Perception and reality, not always the same thing.
And what about the kids? Are they really remembering past lives, or could it be something else? Skeptics point to this really fascinating idea called cryptomnesia. Basically, it's unconscious memory. A child might overhear stories, watch things on TV, absorb all these little details, and then later their brain pieces it all together and presents it as a genuine memory from a past life. And the kid isn't lying. They truly believe it.
Okay, let's break this down with the table here. You can see how all these competing theories stack up against each other. On one side, you've got the purely brain-based, or let's call them materialist explanations. Take the neurological one. It points to things like EEG spikes, these big bursts of brain activity right when the brain is dying as the cause. But, and this is a big but, you see that critique? It doesn't explain what scientists call veridical perceptions. That's a fancy term for cases like Pam Reynolds, where someone sees something real that they just shouldn't have been able to see. Now flip to the other side, the survival theories. These get a little wild. You've got everything from genetic memory, the idea that memories can somehow be encoded in our DNA, all the way to consciousness transferring through some kind of information field, or even quantum physics getting involved. Super fascinating stuff. But the problem is, they all lack hard, testable proof right now. And finally, materialism itself, the main scientific view that consciousness is just what the brain does. It's a really powerful theory, but it still crashes into what philosophers call the hard problem, which is, why do we feel anything at all? Why do we have this inner, subjective experience? Science can't quite answer that yet.
So, where does all this leave us? After looking at the strange evidence and all the competing theories, it becomes pretty clear why this case isn't closed. The mystery is still very much alive because, frankly, science just doesn't have a final answer yet.
So here's the bottom line. This is the state of play for the scientific investigation today. The brain-based theories, they're strong. They explain a lot, but they can't account for everything, especially those really strange outlier cases. And the survival theories? Super intriguing for sure, but they're still just speculation without solid proof. You know, science has not yet found a soul on an MRI scan, but it also hasn't definitively ruled one out either. We're in this fascinating middle ground. And so, in a way, we're left right back where we started. But not really. We're now armed with much more informed questions. Are these experiences just echoes from some other realm? Or are they the last beautiful, poetic flashes of a dying mind? Science has really only just started to dig into this, which leaves us not with a neat conclusion, but with a sense of profound and deeply informed wonder.